could carry that kind of weight. It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my tomb till I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, oh, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Oh, now your mercy has saved my soul. Now your freedom is all that I know. They all made new, Jesus, when I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Oh, you called my name and I ran out of that grave, oh, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Your glorious day. Oh, I needed a rescue. My sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter. I was an orphan, but you called me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I am the future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you called my name, I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, oh, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Your glorious day. Oh.
Hey, my name is Brady Randall, and thanks so much just for joining us on these devotionals. These devotionals have been going great in the quarantine and in the summer, but just to let you know, this will be the last week of the evening devotionals. We're going to go dark in the month of August in terms of devotionals, and we look forward to picking back up with something awesome and something new in the month of September. You know, tonight we're looking at God's attribute, his power. The fact that God is all-powerful. And if there is indeed a God, and if God is the creator of everything, then he must be pretty powerful. Just look at the evidence. Scientists estimate that there are more than 1 septillion stars in the known observable universe. To give you an idea of how many stars that is, that's 1 with a 24 zeros at the end of it. You say, well, Brady, how big is that? Well, the Milky Way galaxy where we live is something like 100 to 200,000 light years across. So if you started over here, it would take you about 200 billion light years to travel across the Milky Way galaxy. A light year is going 186,000 miles per second. You say, Brady, that doesn't really do it for me. Let's say the Milky Way galaxy were a speck of sand. And if that speck of sand were sitting at the bottom of the Empire State Building, the Empire State Building in relation to that little speck of sand would be the known observable universe. When I was younger, we sang a song in Vacation Bible School that went like this: "Our God is so strong, so big and so mighty, there's nothing our God cannot do." And you may be sitting here tonight and you may acknowledge that with your mind, but in your heart, you may not believe that God truly is all-powerful, because if God is all-powerful, I don't see his power in me. I don't see his power working out in my own life and circumstances. What exactly does Scripture mean when it claims that God is all-powerful? I remember my grandfather asking me this question once. He said, "Can God make a rock so big that even he can't move it?" And you know what we mean when we say that God is all-powerful is that God has the ability and the capability to do whatever he puts his mind to do whatever is in his holy will. We read in Psalm 115 that our God is in heaven and he does whatever he pleases. That God has the ability to do whatever he wants to. No plan of God can be thwarted. Nothing is impossible for God. Now that means that God has limited himself in some ways, that God will not go against his nature. God will not tempt others to sin. God will not sin. God cannot lie. God cannot deny himself. But when we say that God is all-powerful, that means God can do whatever he wants and has the ability to carry it out. I want to give you just a broad scope of what we mean in the Scriptures by saying that God is all-powerful. And the first thing I would say is that God has power over creation. In Genesis 1, we read that God literally spoke and all things came into being. That God has power over creation. And not only does God have power over creation, God has the power by his word to uphold the whole universe. Hebrews 1 says that God upholds all things by the power of his word. You know, I don't know if there was a big bang or not, but if God spoke, there may have been a very, very, very big bang. And in Colossians 1, we read that Jesus, who was God in human flesh, he was before all things, and in him all things hold together. And what's amazing is that the earth is spinning about 1,000 miles an hour. Every day that I've been alive, I've not fallen off of the earth at this point. And every day that I've been alive, the sun comes up and the sun goes down. And every year that I've been alive, the earth that's spinning 1,000 miles an hour on its axis goes around the sun. And we've not gotten too close to the sun that we've burned up. And we've not gotten too far away from the sun that we've frozen. And so God has power over creation and has power to uphold creation. We also read that God has power over even daily life. One of my favorite scriptures is in the book of Daniel, in Daniel chapter 6, when God's servant Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, and we read that God, by his angel, shut the mouths of lions so that it did not destroy Daniel. God has power even over the animals. We read in the scriptures that God has power over miracles. You look at Jesus, who was God in human flesh, who could calm the storm, turned water into wine, healed the sick. He even raised the dead. And so God has power even over miracles, and God has power even over death itself, over life and in death. This is what we read in Acts 2:24. But God raised him, Jesus, from the dead, freeing him from the agony of death, because it was impossible for death to keep its hold on him. Not only that, but we read that God has power over his enemies, including his greatest enemy, Satan. Satan has a lot of power, but it's almost as if Satan is on a leash, that he cannot do any more than God has allowed him to do. We read this in 1 John 4:4, that if you're a follower of Jesus, that the one who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. Now, again, you may acknowledge all that I've said tonight and all that the Bible declares about God, but you may say, Brady, if God is all powerful, and if we looked at a couple weeks ago, if God is all good, why doesn't he do something about the bad things that are happening in the world? Why doesn't he stop the coronavirus? Why didn't he intervene in my life if God is really all powerful? Well, you see, not only is God all powerful and God is all good, but we also believe that God is all wise, meaning that right now God may be working out a million different things in your life and in mine, even hard things that we have no idea how they're all coming together for our good and for his glory. And that God can even use hard things to accomplish his great purposes. And I think the best example of that is on the cross of Jesus, that God, who is all powerful, came down, took on the form of a servant in the person of Jesus Christ, and used his death on a cross and his rising from the dead to save all human beings, including you and I, if we're to put our trust in him. And so an all-powerful God can use even the weak and hard things of the world to accomplish his purposes. And though you and I are weak, God is so very strong. In fact, it's when we are our weakest that God can prove to be the strongest. That's what the Apostle Paul said in 2 Corinthians 12:9. But he said to me, my grace is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses so that Christ's power may rest on me. We are weak, but he is strong. And I would encourage you to lean into Jesus, that the same power that spoke the entire universe into being, the same power that raised Jesus from the dead is available to you and I if we are to put our trust in him and in him alone. And then I believe that song will be true. Our God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing our God cannot do. For our time of prayer as we close, I just want to read to you one of what I would say is some of the most powerful words in all the scriptures. This is from Isaiah chapter 40, verse 10. And if you'd like, even just close your mind. Don't close your mind, close your eyes. Open your hearts. Hear these words that speak of the very power of God. See, the sovereign Lord comes with power. He rules with a mighty arm. See, his reward is with him. His recompense accompanies him. Who has measured the water in the hollow of his hand, or the breadth of his hand marked off the heavens? Who has held the dust of the earth in a basket, or weighed the mountains on the scales and the hills in the balance? With whom then will you compare God? What image will you liken him? Do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been told to you from the beginning? Have you not understood since the earth was founded? He sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy. He spreads them out like a tent to live in. To whom will you compare me, or who is my equal, says the Holy One? Lift up your eyes and look to the heavens. Who has created all of these? He who brings out the starry host one by one and calls forth each of them by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing. Do you not know and have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary. His understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary. He increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on the wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. And friends, if that God is for you, then no one or no thing can be against you. Thanks, and have a great rest of your night and week.